Good morning, Villa fans, and welcome to a match reaction video for the game last night. Disappointing 1-0 defeat to Monaco in the Champions League. Would have really, secured sort of top 8 if we did manage to get a result there. But, let's talk about the performance. Let's talk about what happened there. I mean, I've never seen Unai Emery so spiky, I suppose, in a post-match interview. Given some of the questions the journalists were asking him, he admitted himself that he had made a huge mistake in pairing these two guys together, Watkins and Duran. He went with it very, very early. And I did feel from that moment, the game, this kind of momentum that we had in the game was completely lost. And I think he sort of alluded to that as well. But yeah, hugely disappointing game, considering what was at stake, and we knew what was at stake as well. Monaco are not a great team. Let's get that right. They scored an early goal. Again, we need to stop conceding sort of early. First shot maybe again on target, it ends up in a goal. That's happening too many times. It's happening too many times. Team lineup wise, obviously. Biggest surprise was probably, Emery Buendia sort of coming into that number 10 sort of role. Tielemans sort of dropping back with Kamara into the double pivot. Bailey and Rogers sort of flanking. And then obviously Watkins up front from the start, which I thought was a bit strange because I thought Duran would be the one to get the start here, considering that he got like 0 minutes against Everton, only last 10 against Arsenal. So I thought he would be more kind of fresh and raring to go for this and up for it, because obviously, we know what Jhon Duran could be like in the Champions League. But I think this whole argument of trying to play them together, I think Watkins did an interview where he said maybe we can play together. I think that's totally gone now. Absolutely totally gone. These two cannot play together at all. They're basically the same kind of striker, on the shoulder, on the last man, wanting to receive the ball. Not one of them is, clever enough to sort of drop in the hole and receive it deep. This is not a Bergkamp and Ian Wright. This is not a Cantona and Mark Hughes partnership at all. This is two out-and-out strikers. These are two number 9s, and you can't play two number 9s together, not in this kind of day and age. And if you do, like we did, then the service has to be much better. You've got to be flinging crosses into the box, left, right, and centre, whether it's from deep, like Luca Digne did for Tielemans' goal against Arsenal. But that kind of whole feel-good factor from that game has kind of disappeared now as well. But playing two up front, for Villa, it doesn't work with these two. I know that he's trying to keep both happy, but I think it comes down to, you can't keep these two happy and play them together at the detriment of the actual playing style and the team. It is going to have to be one or the other. And whoever is in form, you give one of them the shirt, give Watkins the shirt, right? That's yours to keep. Go out there and score a goal for me. Go out there and play well. If you do that, you keep your shirt. If you don't, Jhon comes in, and vice versa. I think that's the competition that we're going to have to need going forward. But I don't want to see these two playing up front again together, unless it's like for the last sort of 10 minutes of a game and we're throwing everything at it and we are getting those crosses into the box and all that sort of stuff. But in order of sort of, building up play and things like that, if you watch from the first half, and obviously when these two came on, when Duran came on, I felt as though we were in control of the game. Even though we were 1-0 down, Monaco did look dangerous on counter-attacks and things like that. But I thought Emery Buendia, given his credit, I thought he was playing really well in that sort of pocket, picking up the ball, using it well. I felt that was an avenue that we could have explored a little bit more in the second half as well. I think he just went too early with the sub, 55 minutes, and putting these two up front together. You can't be experimenting in the Champions League. Absolutely not. This does not work. I'd love to hear what the comments are saying. Obviously, Jhon Duran has been subject to a £57 million bid recently from West Ham. And my thoughts on that is, that's not enough. I wouldn't want to sell Jhon Duran in this January now, pure and simple, because it would, who could we get in to replace him? But come the summer, I think there might be a different sort of conversation had. And if we do get a bid of like 70 million plus for Jhon Duran, then I could see us taking that. I think we paid 18 million for him from Chicago Fire. He was an unknown. He was a raw diamond and a relatively unknown player. You know, he was in the MLS doing little bits here and there. Even they said he was a sort of in the inconsistent striker. He's obviously come to us and done really well. 12 goals off the bench, more or less, has been terrific. But at the end of the day, these two cannot play together. So you've got Jhon Duran as the backup at the moment, pushing Ollie Watkins all the way. But if a 75 million pound bid comes in for him, you really have to look at that. And I'm sure that Monchi has got a database full of strikers. Even when we were looking at Duran, there must have been other options that we were looking at as well, around similar age, similar profile, similar, build, physique, attributes, whatever it was. And obviously we went for Jhon Duran at the time. He was an unknown. We took a chance on him, and he's done really, really well for us. But yeah, maybe that's something that we need to look at maybe in the summer. I can't see West Ham coming in at 70 million. But I do see the likes of Paris Saint-Germain coming in at that sort of asking price. And if that happens, then from a business perspective, that's unbelievable. And then we can look to replace Jhon Duran with somebody else that was on Monchi's database, perhaps. And that's just the way football goes. It's going to be impossible to keep these two happy. We have got, a big fixture list. And as I said, you could rotate the two. And you could just, as I said, just give one of them the shirt and say, right, that's yours to keep. That's how it's going to go. But in this day and age, it's very difficult to keep two strikers happy that both want first team football, that both believe they should be first teamers as well. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. I don't think anything will happen this January at all. But in the summer, let's see what PSG say. Let's see what Monchi's database is saying. And maybe it is time to cash in on maybe Jhon Duran, because he's probably more, he's got a higher ceiling in terms of that selling ability. Obviously, Ollie Watkins, I'm not sure what you'd get for him in this window, in this sort of transfer market at the moment. But, I don't think that we would look to sell him. I think he suits Emery's style better. And if you look at both players as well, Jhon Duran he's purely off instinct. Most of his goals this season have been off instinct. He's a very instinctive striker. His build-up play and his holding up the ball and bringing players into is not as good as Ollie Watkins. He doesn't make the same sort of runs as Ollie Watkins. So if you're asking me out of the two, which one would we sell? It would more likely to be Jhon Duran than Ollie Watkins. But that's just my personal opinion. But yeah, in the match, I mean, yeah, 1-0 down after 8 minutes is not a good start. I said Villa are a team that like to have control of the ball, boss possession, but you can't have control of the ball if you're 1-0 down. It just doesn't work. And then we were kind of chasing the game. Leon Bailey, I want to talk about this guy a little bit as well. Leon Bailey, I'm not sure what's happened, but he's fallen off a cliff this season. Last year, he was a £50 million player easily. His goals, his assists, he got us to sort of Champions League with his contributions. This season, some of the passes out to him yesterday weren't great, but he just seems like there's no confidence at all. He gets the ball. There was a chance really early on where I think, I'm not sure who it was, somebody fed the ball into the box. It was there to be struck first time, but he wanted to take a touch and try to go round the defender and ends up knocking it out of play. And then there was another chance where Buendia's put a ball in. I think it's meant for Watkins, but it goes on to Bailey. Bailey gets a good contact on it, but the keeper makes a save. And then just from then, there was nothing really from him. You're expecting a lot more from Leon Bailey in those sort of one-on-one situations, but he hardly did anything. And I'm not being bad. If a 5 million bid offer came in now for Leon Bailey, you'd probably think about it. He looks absolutely awful. As I said before, he looks like Liam Bailey, who's played for Dagenham and Redbridge or Leyton Orient or something. It looks like a totally different player from last season. And I just don't understand where this Leon Bailey from last season has gone. Is he having a bit of a confidence, crisis confidence, or whatever it's called? I'm not sure. Does he want out? He saw his best mate, Moussa Diaby, go to Saudi Arabia and, he's on about 300 grand a week. I've said this before. I'm sure if he looks at that and he's still in contact with sort of Diaby as well, and I'm sure he is, then he's probably thinking, I fancy a move out to Saudi as well. and I wouldn't be surprised if he got that move in the summer. But we've got Daniel Marlon now. Surely Marlon starts on Sunday against West Ham. Has to. You can't be having Leon Bailey playing on Sunday. Marlon, that's his shirt now. To give him the shirt, let's see what he can do, because Bailey has had quite a few opportunities and this season has not turned up at all. So Leon Bailey, very, very disappointing in the game. Morgan Rogers didn't have a great game either. Tries to affect the play here and there, but just not his usual self. But I said he's played a lot of football, so I'm not going to be overcritical of Morgan Rogers. But there were other players that should have stepped up, Leon Bailey being one. I think Ollie Watkins had a poor game, in truth, as well. Yeah, that chance right before half-time. You've got to be burying that. Got to be burying that. That is a golden opportunity, literally inside the box, on your favoured foot as well, I think. Okay, it's a good save, but, clinical strikers have got to put that away. And Ollie Watkins is, his success rate at the moment is probably less than 50% of his chances. I don't know exactly what it is, but love to hear the stats. But, he needs like 4 or 5 chances to score 1 goal. So yeah, just disappointing from Watkins as well. And then we struggled second half. I mean, if you look at the if you freeze the game at certain points in the first half, you would see that Mings had the ball, or Kamara or Tielemans, and there was a lovely ball into Buendia available, or Rogers would come narrow and he'd be available for that break in the line kind of pass. But if you look at the second half, and when Duran came on, Duran and Watkins were literally holding hands up front. They were like, you could just throw a blanket over them. They were just close together, not one of them dropping off. And all of a sudden, that space that was there in the first half for Buendia to pick up the ball and drive with it was no longer there, because Buendia had to sort of shift a little bit more kind of wider. He was easily marked by the 2 CDMs of Monaco in that second half. And his performance just, fizzled out a little bit after a promising kind of first half and beginning of the second half as well. It's just, this front 2 does not work. Don't want to see it again. I think it's time to, realise that and kind of move on from that. As I said, Emery was very spiky in his post-match press conference, and sort of said questioned kind of the mentality maybe of the players a little bit, like to perform what he wanted. He felt for 70 minutes that we played well, but, the 20 minutes of that game, the plan just went to pot. Ian Martin came on, didn't get forward enough, if at all. I don't remember doing anything in the final third, and that's what he's been brought on to do. He's trying to get balls into the box, get to the byline and things like that. Didn't see any of that. Matty Cash, obviously on the right-hand side, up and down, gives you good effort, but very little quality. In fact, he had a chance in the second half as well where he found himself inside the box, and I'm not sure what he's tried. If that's a shot or a cross or a pass across goal, I don't know. But I thought he was quite poor as well. Again, he just doesn't get forward enough. Overlapping runs and things like that. There's nothing to take defenders away. I'm looking forward to seeing Andres Garcia. Not sure he's going to get much of a look in, but I'm hoping he might be an upgrade on Matty Cash. He might surprise a few people, this Andres Garcia. But yeah, so it was just hugely disappointing, the game overall, considering what's at stake now. We've got to go to Villa Park, playing against Celtic, coming up next Wednesday now. And that is all of a sudden become a must-win game. We've also got Champions League fixtures tonight as well, which will more than likely take us out of the top 8. But Emery just seemed really pissed off that the fact that we're probably not going to get a top 8 finish. Having said that, we beat Celtic. We've still got a healthy goal difference as well, which looks good. I think it's 5 at the moment. So if we can get that up to 6 or 7, that'll be good. But Celtic will be up for it. They're playing Young Boys today, which I'm sure they'll win. And then if they beat us at Villa Park, then they're probably in contention for top 8 as well, unbelievably. So it's really a massive game at Villa Park next Wednesday. And, we don't want to blow this. After beating Bayern Munich and having arguably the greatest night in our history, for the last 40 years or so, surely don't want to be blowing this. I mean, we can get in. Obviously, we're qualified for the playoffs, but that's a 2-legged kind of affair, I believe, against another team that's ended from 9th to 24th. So that could be, a very strong team, that we could come up against in the playoffs. But if we got into the top 8, which is still within reach, and we've got to go for that, then we bypass the playoffs and we're through to the last it's last 16 or last 32 or whatever it is. But yeah, we just need to get ourselves back on track in the Champions League. There needs to be more from the players. Transfer news wise, looks like Diego Carlos has completed his news now. He's moved to Fenerbahce. That's been announced on Transfer Market. I haven't seen a picture of him holding up the shirt just yet, but I'm sure that'll be announced in the next 24 hours. Loic Bardet is hopefully going to be that instant replacement, because I can't see us, just continuing with Konsa and Mings. I do think there'll be one more defender coming in. I think Kostan Nedeljkovic will probably go out on loan now that we've secured Andres Garcia. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if there is any movement. Obviously, Emery mentioned that Buendia had a chance to leave the club, had an option to leave this month on loan. But obviously, I thought Buendia was probably our standout player yesterday. If I rattle through the player ratings, Emi Martinez could have done better from the goal. Maybe, a good initial save, but can he get that palmed away somewhere further? But I'm not going to be overcritical of Emi Martinez, but I'll give him a 6. Cash, up and down. Industry is there. Effort is there. Just lack of quality. Put a great ball in against Arsenal, but didn't see anything from him on that point of view from crossing into the box. So I'll give him a 6 as well. Maybe even a 5. Konsa, yeah, didn't look like he's Rolls Royce kind of self. I'll give him a 5. Mings obviously conceding the corner, passing the ball out, and then we conceded the corner from that, and then obviously him not defending the corner as well. I'm going to give him a 5 as well. Luca Digne hauled off in favour of Martin. He got into some good positions in that first half, but again couldn't quite put delivery into the box like he did. He put one cross into the box, which Bailey had a header, which he kind of took his eye off, I think. I'm not sure, but straight at the keeper. I'll give Digne a 5 as well. So, everyone in that defence back 5. Kamara, not his usual dominant self. Got stuck in. I'll give him a 6. Tielemans, a couple of times, played the ball well, 6. Head of that, Morgan Rogers, I think it was quite poor today, running into some blind alleys, 5. Emi Buendia, I thought was probably our best player, 7. Leon Bailey, not being overcritical, but I'll give him a 2. I thought he was very, very poor. Just everything he did was poor. Watkins missing that chance, doing very little else in the whole game. I'll give him a 3. Duran, when he came on, can't remember him doing anything really. 2 as well for Jhon Duran. Martin coming on, nothing there either. Give him a 3. I think he made one tackle. Aside from that, guys, I can't really remember much else that happened in the game. It's a game to forget, given the occasion. But, let's put this one to bed. Let's focus on West Ham at the weekend. That is now, a big, big game. We want to bounce back, need to bounce back. And I don't want to see Duran and Watkins up front together ever again. One or the other, please, Unai Emery. Until the next video, guys, like and subscribe, please. I'll do a match preview of the West Ham game probably on Friday. Until then, enjoy the rest of your working week. All right, take care. Bye-bye.